700 billion. What do you think when I say the number 700 billion? It's a pretty massive number, isn't it? Well, recent studies conducted by the University of Meeker Institution in the years of 2015 to 2016 have concluded that within 1 year alone, almost 700 billion photographs were taken in 1 year. That's a crazy amount of photos to be taken. Now, when I say photography, videography, or even cinematography, what is one thing all of these have in common? It's the camera. Photographs have to be taken with a camera, videos have to have a camera to take them, as well as movies have to be made with some sort of camera. Now, it's so easy for us to just go grab out our iPhone and take a picture, or grab out our camera and take a picture or record something. But the craziest thing is that every time a person goes to take a photo, they are most likely taking for granted how easy it is for them to just take that photo. As humans in the 21st century, it's really important that we realize and know the history of the camera, because it was not always as easy as it is now to simply take a picture. In the year of 1816, Nikifor Niepce invented the first ever camera. The first ever object that could take a picture, capture a moment in history, and save it frozen forever. You have to remember that back then, this must have been mind-boggling to be able to capture a moment, freeze it in history, and have it forever. But unfortunately, taking photos back then was not nearly as easy as it is today. The first ever camera that Niepce invented weighed roughly 20 pounds. And it looked like a giant box that just had a little circle in the front that would do the flash exposure for the photo. And this box weighed roughly 20 pounds. That's a pretty heavy piece of equipment just to take a photo with. And what nowadays, our phones that we use to take pictures weigh what, maybe 1 pound, 2, not even? Back then, there was no color exposure. And if we look back to old photographs or even old movies, they're not in color yet. They're all in black and white, and that's because color exposure would not be invented until 20 to 30 years down the line. Now, a fun little fact about photography in the early 1800s that many people don't realize is that people really weren't as serious as we think they were in their pictures. We see pictures of people from the early 1800s and they're always very stern, very serious. That look on their face looks like they're just not having a good time at all. And so everyone always jokes around and says, oh, they were just very hard-working, serious people. They didn't have time to smile. When in reality, that's not really what was going on in these photos. We have to remember that it took roughly 8 to 10 hours to take one picture back then. 8 to 10 hours. Now, can you think of what we normally do in 8 to 10 hours? Well, if we take, for example, a regular school day normally lasts about 7 hours, that's still longer than a regular school day. And they would just be sitting in front of a camera for that amount of time. I mean, that's crazy to think about, honestly. So yeah, these people in their pictures, they really weren't these serious, scary people. They were just having to hold a very simple look upon their face in order to have this picture developed properly. Now, as time went on, scientists like Joseph Nikifor were able to take the first ever camera and improve it in ways that nobody could have ever imagined. He added things such as color exposure. He was able to make the photograph faster. No longer 8 to 10 hours in front of a camera. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 hours. They were counting it down until they eventually got to what? What are we at nowadays? 0.5 seconds to take a photo? That's pretty crazy to have gone from almost 10 hours to 0.5 seconds for a photo. It's pretty good. So yeah, photography really is a huge part of everybody's lives, whether we realize it or not. Social media, for example, is pretty much based around photography. If we take the social media site of Instagram, for example, that social media is solely based around photography. People go and take their photographs and they post them online, and then people scroll through to look at each other's photography. And in a way, photography really is a beautiful thing. If you take a photo of something beautiful outside and you post it for everyone to see, you get to share it with the world. And if you take a photo of yourself and you post it, and someone who hasn't seen you in like several years, they get to see what you look like now just through a phone, just through a photograph. So yeah, photography really is an amazing and beautiful invention that we as humans in the 21st century need to appreciate and know the value and history of. Now, a quick little thing I want to leave everyone off with before I'm done up here is that the next time you have to go take a photograph or a group photo and you're just like, I don't want to take this photo, I don't want to be in photographs, I hate pictures, just remember that you're only going to have to stand in front of that camera for at most 5 seconds. At least it's not 8 to 10 hours. So my advice, if you have to go take a photo that you really don't want to take, just grit your teeth and go stand in front of that camera for 5 seconds and be thankful for inventors like Nikifor and Yapesi for making the camera much better quality and much faster quality. Thank you, everybody.